Hello everybody. So this video is entitled Him Stock Scenarios for Monday. I want to weigh in on some of the things that I've seen on X and all over the internet. So let's go through some scenarios for Monday and things that may happen, may not happen, etc. So scenario number one, and I think that's the big question that a lot of people have, is could the announcement be fake? Could this be a fake story reported right before close, right 30 minutes before the after hours closed, this was reported? Could this be a fake story? I'd say likely not, because this was Bloomberg, right? This is not the Wall Street Journal. This was Bloomberg, and these Bloomberg terminals typically are very accurate. That's point number one. And point number two is a Danish newspaper actually reported on it this morning. And if it was fake, it would have been denied by now. And of course, we've seen before. You may remember the whole Lilly debacle years back, another FUD moment where Lilly said, "Oh no, we're not in talks," or there was talks, etc. So they deny these things when it's fake. I don't think it's fake. Scenario number two. The bears continue. So we're already seeing some of this online, but I think this is somewhat likely that we're still going to have a lot of bears. I think you could see posts like, people doubling down on their shorts. Oh, why I'm short, doubling down on the short. You get up at all the time with controversial stocks. You may remember, Tesla back in the early days, people doubling down on their shorts. So many heavily shorted stocks. It's what people do. Maybe they do that for engagement farming. But I expect a lot of bears to remain. I expect people who surprisingly have been bears, who surprisingly let us know that they were wise and they exited the shorts weeks ago. You also get these announcements again for engagement farming. People notoriously anti-HIMS, anti-short, who just happen to tell you that they weren't short anymore and that they're no problem, that they're fine. And I also expect people trying to rationalize this thing and try to downplay the importance of this announcement. They're going to say things like, HIMS is not going to make any money on the GLP-1 deal. They're just going to earn a referral fee. Oh, this actually could be worse for HIMS because now they are going to lose the compounded GLP-1 business. Now, if you are a learned individual about the business of HIMS, you know that HIMS is not a GLP-1 company. It's 25% of a business. That's point number A. So you don't have too much hope on GLP-1. If you actually study and love this company, you realize this company is not a GLP-1 company. It's 75% something else. Okay, and then you realize that it's a platform with cross-selling, and that even if you make very little money on GLP-1s, the value of recruiting a person on a platform that can supply all sorts of medical treatments is invaluable. It's extremely valuable, and you're running that flywheel, you're running that algorithm, you're running that recommender system, you're getting more people treatments, and it's a flywheel, and it's a cross-selling platform. See, HIMS is a platform. It's okay to recruit plenty of new users, even if you barely make any money, even if you earn the fees, right? The Labs platform, how many people are going to HIMS for the Labs platform? And we know they don't make much money on the Labs, but the Labs platform is here for them to sell more things. Well, same. Maybe somebody's going to sign up for a GLP-1. They don't make a lot of money because they want the branded GLP-1 with Novo, but maybe they get to sell a hair loss treatment, an ED treatment, or something else entirely. Labs, it's a platform. You want people to be on the platform, and HIMS is the biggest telehealth platform. And of course, if you are learned about this field, you may also know that the GLP-1 business is gonna go to Lilly eventually, and that's not too far away from now, maybe 6 months from now. That entire business, in my view, will go to Lilly. Lilly already owns much of the business with tirzepatide. I think this will tilt even more into Lilly's favor. But unfortunately, the market still associates HIMS with just a GLP-1 business. HIMS is just more than a GLP-1 business, much more. And of course, if people move to Lilly, perhaps HIMS has a shot at just selling oral versions of metformin, bupropion-based pills, oral weight loss pills, etc. I'm sure HIMS is going to have a shot of doing that. And by the way, as you know, Lilly and Hims never compounded Lilly's products. So Lilly could make a partnership with Hims at some point. And if that were to happen, I can't even imagine the stock price, right? Anyways, how big could the squeeze get? So this is, of course, the big question out there. And of course, for engagement farming, a lot of people online are telling you this is going to be bigger than GameStop. I see people comparing to the Volkswagen squeeze in 2008. They tell you, oh, it's going to be bigger than either of these. My answer to that is no. I don't think it's going to be bigger than either of these, because Volkswagen, when they had their big squeeze in 2008, that was a pretty large company, a pretty prominent company. And when GameStop, slightly bigger, right? Maybe not at that time. GameStop, smaller company like Hims when that happened. But GameStop, you see, had many, many more shorts. GameStop at 130% of a float was short. When it comes to Hims, it's about 40% of a float is short. So what's the squeeze going to be on Monday? My guess is it's going to be bad. It's not going to be extremely, extremely bad, we collapse the financial market type of bad, but it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. And I would say between 40 and 60%. I wouldn't be surprised. Don't forget, it also depends on the madness of the market on Monday, right? We are going through a very, I'm going to call it, dark gray event right now, right? Don't forget the geopolitical news impacts the entire market on Monday. We are going through a very dark gray, if not black swan event right now. It's been a week. We're a week into it. I didn't think oh my gosh, like we have very bad macro event right now. So that could also impact the stock on Monday. Point number 4, which is the last point. Should you chase? Is the stock still buyable at these levels? So, of course, at $15, the stock was an absolute steal on my spreadsheet. For consistency, I always use the same numbers here. For consistency, on my spreadsheet, it was a 0.07. Absolute no-brainer, although, this market has been crazy. But absolute no-brainer at 0.07. But, there's a lot of stocks who are very, very cheap right now. But Hims was definitely one of them, part of a cheap club. At $22, which is roughly what it's at now in after hours, it's still very cheap at a 0.101. So it's still very, very cheap. If it were to go up 60% on Monday at $25, it's still dirt cheap at 0.11. So no matter how you put it, even if the stock were to be 30, it would still be cheap. Like no matter the month. I mean, unless we get we're not going to get 300% pop. But the stock would still be cheap. Like if after hours activity of Friday evening is still the same on Monday morning, the stock will still be cheap. But the key question is, and that could bode very well for Hims. Hims could be much cheaper than we see. The key question is, what's the new revenue growth number? What is the new revenue growth number with this partnership back on? You see, I have my next 12-month revenue growth at 29%. That's the guidance from Hims plus the eucalyptus acquisition. That's 29%. I'm getting Hims guidance and the eucalyptus contribution. Okay, 29%. But how would the guidance change if you include branded GLP-1 in the mix and the oral pill? Think about that. Hims could very well be back to 45-55% revenue growth, and in that case, dirt cheap is what Hims is in that case, very, very much so. So it all depends what the forward growth is, but this stock in my view is a wonderful stock. Of course, I like it better at 15 than at 22, but at 22 it is a very inexpensive stock in my view, right? This is not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you are entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.